Hey everybody, today we're going to be cooking one of my favorite dishes from my new spring cookbook, rack of lamb with new potatoes and asparagus. Let's go. Okay, so obviously the first thing we have to do is get this rack out of the wrapper. We're going to get it well seasoned. So, using regular kosher salt, Diamond Crystal is my favorite. We're just going to generously season on all sides. So, starting on the fat side, flip it over. You can do the ends, the inside ribs. You want to get the very ends of the rack as well. And you're just going to leave this set aside for about 30 minutes or so. We're just going to take about a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, and using clean hands, we are going to just coat this entire rack with the Dijon mustard. So this accomplishes two things. It's going to act as a binder as we do another layer of a little bit more salt, but all of the pepper that we want to use to season this rack. But while we're barbecuing this, it is going to make a really great crust. The next thing we want to do is properly cover the exposed ribs. So on a properly French rack of lamb, you're going to have these exposed bones. If you just threw these on the grill, they would get charred and snap off, and it's not going to make for a great presentation. So using this amount of foil, and don't worry, like, have a lot of it, because the more you can sort of like, bunch up on the back of it, the better it's going to help stick on. I have never once cooked a rack of lamb without the foil falling off at some point, which is okay. Like, you do want to have some color on the ribs. You just want to prevent them from burning, charring, and breaking off. So the next thing we're going to do is prep our mint pesto or mint sauce. I've got some fresh mint that is constantly growing in my garden. I love this stuff. So I just snip off a little bit. We're going to use some fresh garlic, some flat leaf parsley, a little bit of olive oil, and you can adjust the acidity and the salt levels with some sugar and some red wine vinegar. I always find is nice to add to this. So we're just going to add all of it into this container. You can do this in whatever. You have a food processor, just throw it all in there and emulsify it that way. I personally just like using a hand emulsifier, so I just use the container it came with. Going to zest some lemon the right way. You got to make sure you don't get too far down on the lemon peel where it picks up the white of the lemon, just the zest. So just grab the yellow part. Okay, so typically what I just do is I take part of the lemon that I've zested, cut it off, quarter it, and just to make things a lot easier, I just put all the juice, including the seeds, into a container, and then I strain that juice out into the whatever I'm using to emulsify everything together. Now, if you're following along in the free spring cookbook, which you can find the link in the description below, you know that you got to add in about half a cup to 3/4 of a cup of olive oil. We're going to throw some salt in there. Again, you can add in some sugar and some red wine vinegar. And now we just emulsify. So just use either your food processor or your hand emulsifier. Okay, so whether you're using a gas grill or a charcoal, I'm a big charcoal fan, it's time to get it ready. So I always like to start off with charcoal, more charcoal than I think I would need. Get the coals nice and mature, and then pull them back down in heat, set them aside so you got some really hot areas and some more rocky areas that you can move your proteins back and forth on. It's a lot easier to set up these sections on a gas grill because you just turn on the two you want, you leave one off, and it's easy. Keep yourself clean while you're doing this. And now we're going to sort of prep our water for the potatoes. Timing is everything with this meal. You can take your time doing it too. You can do it as fast as you want, as slow as you want. I just find things like the potatoes and the asparagus, you can just do a lot of prep. You've got the barbecue prepped, and then as your guests start to arrive, you can just sort of pick up the pace and sort of pull it all together. So with the asparagus, just right where the natural break point is, don't be too scientific about this. Just break off the ends of the asparagus, coat them in a little bit of olive oil and salt. That's it. Wash them first, of course. Just leave them aside. So the asparagus are so quick to cook. So most of the flavor is just going to happen right here. Just olive oil, salt, and you're good to go. So again, as we're watching our timing, I got these potatoes, you know, about 90% done, and it's going to set them aside back in the pan with a little bit of butter, and I'm just going to leave them there. I'll bring them up the heat up after when the meat's resting, but this is pretty much all you do. The potatoes are so simple. You just, you know, 90% done, a little butter. That water was nice and salty. You don't really have to put too much salt on after. Just, you know, let it sit in the butter, and they'll finish cooking there. And we're going to go back and check on our barbecue now. Okay, here we go. So this is why it's important to have a cooler section. You're going to be constantly flipping your rack. You're going to be standing it up, keep it off heat. You want to just keep constantly testing and poking and taking temperature readings on it until it's ready to come off. And luckily, look at that foil. Stayed on almost the whole time. It's great. Great. So as soon as it hits about 125 internal temp, you want to bring that off, set it aside to rest. And I immediately put on my asparagus at this point. We're going to keep my eye on this. The asparagus you'll need to do about 2 minutes aside, but just, you know, knock them back and forth, make sure they don't fall down through the cracks. But you want to keep a nice crisp, get some color to it. A lot of flavor's already there. You've coated this in salt and olive oil. That's most of the flavor. Fine. So once this is rested, at least 10 minutes. I prefer to rest meat 20. You can either cut double chops, as you saw in the first two, or single chops, depending on how hungry your guests are. I'm a double chop guy, but we have some guests today that want the singles, so we also cut down some singles. You got a nice rare to medium rare. That's where I like it. You can cook it a little bit longer if you want, but lamb shines when it's just right between rare and medium rare. Now it's time for plating. Just put down a nice huge double tablespoon of your mint sauce. You want the potatoes up north there. You can interlock your double chops, put them on top, place the asparagus right above the potatoes there, and I'm telling you, that mint sauce on the meat, perfect. When it gets in there with the butter and the potatoes, it's fantastic. This is a great meal.